Let's say it at the same time today.
Oh, in unison?
Yeah. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thanks for... Welcome to Thanks for Watching. I'm Lauren Zima.
And I'm Zach Toombs. This week we'll be recapping the Season 3 premiere of The Americans, where Kerry Russell metaphorically threw all of us into the deep end of the pool.
And we will also be talking about some of the trailers for the most buzzed about movies at Sundance this year, including the movie Dope, which made me feel like a loser. The Americans?
The Americans. So this was a show that we previewed for our spring TV preview as a show to watch, and it is.
Can I help you?
Yes, we're with the FBI.
The Season 3 premiere was solid. They've added Frank Langella, and you really can't overstate how much value Frank Langella has added in the role of this, what has been sort of a rotating position as handler for Philip and Elizabeth Jennings.
I watched the season premiere with zero context and have not watched the first 2 seasons, but I still have thoughts.
I'm a veteran of the previous 2 seasons of The Americans.
Here's what bothered me the most. After the scene with Frank Langella, where she was talking to Frank Langella about how they were training the daughter to be a spy too, and then the husband seemed so mad at her.
I told him what he needed to hear, what the center needs to hear.
Yes, that is exactly what you want.
And I was thinking, it was obvious she was just telling him what he wanted to hear.
What he wanted to hear.
It just seemed very obvious. And this husband is a spy, and he wasn't picking up on what his wife's spy, who he knows so well, was doing.
You know, they very clearly set up this debate over their daughter Paige's fate and whether she's going to be, brought into the KGB scheme.
They're going to get a better life for her.
Yeah, they've set this struggle with Paige up, I think, as the main storyline in Season 3, and it's a very interesting one.
The center, they want Paige to be next.
That is not an option.
Those are your orders.
Seeing some of the background on that, you realize that, yes, maybe Elizabeth Kerry Russell was telling Gabriel what he wanted to hear, but at the same time, she really does believe that. Philip wants her to have kind of her own life, and Elizabeth sees Paige joining the KGB and joining their cause as something better than just, a typical American collegiate life for their daughter.
You know what I liked about this show? Awesome female character. Kerry Russell kicked butt. She seems smarter than her husband, based on my first take.
I don't know you.
You were hired by the KGB. They've changed their mind. We don't want to kill someone our own people hired, but that's the other option.
I just loved her.
Kerry Russell's character in The Americans is everything that you hoped that Claire Danes' character in Homeland would have been.
She almost kills 2 guys, and then she's just like, I'm going to ice my shoulder and
You know what's
see if
funny?
they need anything to eat.
The Americans, the showrunners, try very hard to keep their KGB spies from becoming super spies and becoming James Bond. But when Kerry Russell does it, you believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, they've set Elizabeth up as someone who's very good at her job, probably better at her job than Philip Jennings, her husband.
Yeah. There is something to get adjusted to about the fact that it's set in the 80s, because you feel like I think it feels more simplistic because the technology was more simplistic. So it's more basic spying. You're
Payphones.
Yeah.
I mean, these are fascinating characters because, Philip and Elizabeth Jennings, they grew up in a very different culture than the one they're raising their own kids in. And that flashback where Elizabeth Jennings threw Paige into the pool was kind of indicative of that parenting struggle that they've had over the past couple seasons.
Do they not understand that she is 14 years old?
Of course they do. But their position, and they have a point, is that now is the time to start laying the groundwork.
I'll tell you what I loved about this episode. And it was in the little moments and the little between the lines dialogue that I thought this particular episode really shined. The one line that really stood out to me that encapsulated a lot of Philip's sort of internal turmoil was when he was sitting down with Frank Langella, Gabriel, their handler, and Gabriel asked how their son was doing at hockey, and Philip responded, actually, he's more into baseball now. And it's it's subtle hints like that that Philip is trying to say, hey, we're kind of latching onto this American lifestyle, and there are some things about it that the Jennings don't hate, especially Philip. I think this could be the breakout year for the Americans, and it's something that I think is long deserved.
Well, I think we should debut our new rating system. But we've come up with something fairly simple. We're either going to give thanks, yes, or say no thanks. No, don't watch it. First timer for the Americans, I give thanks. I will watch it again.
I give thanks as well.
Great.
Thanks for watching gives many thanks. So Sundance.
Yes. We're not there.
Can you tell?
But we're following the news at Sundance, and one of the most buzzed about movies from the festival, which is getting great reviews, and a lot of people are saying it could be a really big commercial hit. It's got a soundtrack from Pharrell Williams, or at least some of the songs, is the movie Dope.
For most geeks, a bad day might be being the butt of jokes in class. But when you live in the bottoms, a bad day might be...
So I watched the trailer and felt real old. But it looks good.
It's just unendingly hip.
it's just so cool and dope. What struck me the most about the trailer is it just seems like a really unique story. I didn't have a lot of movies to compare it to after watching it. You know, I couldn't really see the pitch of it's this meets this, because it's kind of a story about a black nerd trying to survive.
And trying to be cool. In Southern California.
Yeah, in a really tough neighborhood. I did read Variety's review said it has almost a John Hughes vibe to it.
That's interesting.
Which is interesting, the coming of age 80s tales. I like that the trailer didn't tell us too much, but it was very fast paced and exciting and charming.
Absolutely.
Hello?
Hi, I'm a reporter with the Oregonian. I wanted to get your side on the Christian Longo story.
Who?
He murdered his entire family.
Why are you telling me this?
Because when they apprehended him, he said he was Mike Finkel of the New York Times.
Another film debuting at Sundance, True Story. So this is a movie that stars Jonah Hill and James Franco, and it's not the kind of movie you'd think would star Jonah Hill and James Franco. A heavy drama about a journalist who's brought into this homicide case. You know, it's a very dramatic turn for both Franco and Hill. And they've had dramatic parts before. It's not all.
That was what I was struck by in watching the trailer is, you know, we've seen the Jonah Hill of Moneyball and even Wolf of Wall Street, Franco of 127 Hours. They've both done comedy, they've both done drama, but they haven't done drama together yet.
You're an outcast.
That's not the man I wanted to be.
None of us is the man he wants to be.
And there's something very striking about seeing, you know, you're used to seeing them in This Is the End, and seeing them in a movie like this together. For as much bad rep as James Franco gets, I was watching the trailer thinking, you know, these are two really talented guys who have really grown over the past couple of years in terms of their acting skills, and I'm really excited for the movie.
Yeah, you couldn't see them, you know, it's still a little strange to see them together in this movie, but you absolutely couldn't have seen this happening like 6-7 years ago.
No.
And what is this?
It's newsreel film.
Yeah, I see that.
It shows us winning the war.
But we didn't win the war.
So Amazon does something very different than traditional TV networks, as you'd expect them to. They get a lot of pilots out there, and then sort of judge the critical response and the audience response to those pilots. One pilot they have out right now is called The Man in the High Castle. It's a television or web series adaptation.
Mr. Hitler, he's got his right hand in his pocket. Do you know why?
So he can play with his balls because nobody else will.
He's got Parkinson's.
The Man in the High Castle is an adaptation of the classic Philip K. Dick novel of the same name. It essentially explores 1960s America under Nazi Third Reich and under Japan. It doesn't really get into the details of how America got that way, at least not to begin with. Which I think is always wise for sort of a dystopian, you know, sci-fi piece of literature or piece of television. Yeah, is to leave some mystery. And, you know, sometimes it's not important how they got there as much as what it looks like when they're there. The pilot is the only thing out right now. It hasn't been picked up for a full series or a full season or anything like that. I think it will. It's gotten a lot of positive attention. One really important thing in adapting dystopian science fiction literature for television or for movies is the subtlety factor, because in novels, it doesn't hit you all at once, but in television, you're just dropped right into that world.
The visuals.
And and it can be a little over the top depending on how they handle it. I think The Man in the High Castle handles its subject matter with the right amount of subtlety while also giving you enough of a look at this world to really intrigue you. Science fiction fans will find a lot to nerd out about in this series.
The Man in the High Castle.
Who?
Some guy Ed told me about. He makes these anti-fascist movies.
Makes them GIs in Times Square.
No, I know they look real.
Again, we don't know how much further it's gonna go, if it's gonna be picked up for a full series or even one season. I really hope it will.
Have you given feedback?
Oh, to Amazon directly? No, I guess I should.
This is your chance.
Hey, Amazon, pick it up for a full season. It's great.
I mean, in a sentence, what do you love about it?
It is a highbrow but still appropriately subtle take on classic sci-fi dystopian literature.
Nailed it.
Great.
So you're giving thanks.
I'm giving thanks to The Man in the High Castle. You should check it out. And Amazon, please pick it up.
If I had only heard that it was called The Man in the High Castle with no context from you, I would have said that it was about weed. Because I'm cool.
That's what you would have gone to, right?
I'm dope.
You gotta stop.